Welcome to this week's edition of the Remy Podcast. I am Remy more times than not with Lord Matthew Gabriel.
I'm always Lord Matthew.
He is always Lord Matthew. And if you caught us on the Insta, you could see Matthew dominating his realm, which I'm pretty sure is just video games.
That's just the norm. That's just what I do.
Is that the Norm McDowell? I made a bad pun. Yay! That's what I.
Is he even relevant still?
Probably not. We love you, Norm. This week we do have a couple interesting topics. Ruben did not join us as he is in Detroit right now at some kind of conference. He did go to a Tigers game though this week.
Who they play?
I don't even know or remember, but I'll be honest.
It wasn't the Mets.
I have not paid attention to the Tigers.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not really. It's not a thing anyone needs to do at the moment.
No.
But I'd like to start, and I may do this as a segment fairly weekly. We actually have two instances of this, and it's called, the new segment is Dumpster Fire. The segment is called Dumpster Fire.
AKA, how are the Orioles doing?
Or the Mets, which is funny because both will be touched. So our first dumpster fire moment of the week does come from the Baltimore Orioles, who did achieve a very dubious accomplishment. They are the first, well, not the first. They have given up 100 home runs to opposing teams in total, quicker than any other team in Major League history. They gave up 100 home runs in 48 games. My Yankees were the team to put them over this week. They supplanted the 2000 Kansas City Royals, who had given up 100 home runs in 57 games. We knew the Orioles were not going to be anything stellar this year, but that is, I mean, bluntly, that is historically bad.
That is, I'm looking through their pitching staff right now just to get an idea of what that means. What would you say is an average, if a decent pitcher goes through a season, what would be the average amount of home runs you think that they would give up in a season?
Over a 162 game period. Let's say for
a starting pitcher, you think he's going to pitch maybe 30 games.
That's fair. I think if they give up around somewhere between 30 and 40 throughout the season, that's fair.
30, 40 home runs? Okay.
That's fair.
So right now, so if we go by their starting pitching, actually their bullpen's even worse as I'm looking through this. But their starting pitching, this is a who's who of starting pitchers. We start with their best pitcher, John Means. Actually, as I'm looking at him, he's actually not doing that bad. He's got a 2.68 ERA. He's the low man with only 6 home runs given up. Andrew Kashner is still somehow in major leagues. He gave up 9 home runs. And then you go into the double digits with 12 for Dylan Bundy, 14 for Dan Straley.
Oh, God.
David Hess is the premier one. He's given up 17 home runs in 9 games.
I'm pretty sure 10 of those are to Gleyber Torres. I was at the game where the Orioles gave up 7+ home runs this season.
Even better, you have Alex Cobb, who's actually on the DL right now. He started 3 games, gave up 11 home runs in 3 games as a starter. So they are, they're pretty good.
It's just ungodly. I actually don't know what the MLB average is. The reason I put it at about 30 is, there's going to be some games where you don't give up home runs and some games where maybe you give up 1 or 2.
I don't know what the home run given up average would be.
No, but, I mean, it's still, to be on that type of pace. And, again, the Orioles are rebuilding, and you want to see some consistency out of your pitchers. And, I mean, that kind of goes into dumpster fire number 2, which is the New York Mets and their new situation with the injury to Yoennis Cespedes. I did reach out to Ruben for comment, and he did send me a picture of a meme of a small child falling into a garbage can. That was Ruben's response to Cespedes. Cespedes owns a ranch. He does like the horses. Brody Van Wagenen did say that the injury was because of non-baseball related activities. As we know, Cespedes has apparently hurt himself ranching, hurt himself golfing. He does all the activities. However, he did specify it is not horse related. So the horse, there's a whole bunch of avenues we could go down with him and the horse, and I'm not gonna do that.
Was he the one that fell off the horse during the Preakness? Because that would make sense.
That's how he did it. He got himself horse racing.
He jockeyed and fell off in the Preakness.
Now, they can recoup some of the money on Cespedes via insurance and I'll get into this in a second for you. The other thing they could do is look to try and void his contract because of all these non-baseball related injuries. The irony and the amusing thing about this is Cespedes' agent at the time of the contract at CAA was Brody Van Wagenen. And he signed a 4-year, $110 million deal after the 2016 season. We're in 2019 right now. He has only played in 119 games total.
So less than a full season over 3 years.
That's a contract you wish you didn't give.
Yeah, that's. I feel bad for Mets fans because he was supposed to be like one of their cornerstone pieces to really compete. I mean, because 2016 they knocked the Cubs out. They were in the World Series. I mean, or 2015, very recently, and it's just been a dumpster fire since then.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of DeGrom and Syndergaard, they haven't been getting pitching either.
Sure.
Really.
Even DeGrom's been kind of off this year, honestly.
A little bit lately, yeah. So it's very interesting. We look at these two teams, and the Mets are supposed to be good this year. The Mets are supposed to be, contenders, and I'm not saying that they're not. They're starved for pitching right now, and right before we went on air, I saw that they picked up, I think it's on a minor league deal, Irvin Santana, just out of desperate
all right.
jockeying. So we see the Orioles' futility. They're bad and they're supposed to be bad. The Mets are bad and supposed to be good. Right now, if you're looking at the Orioles and the Mets, who is a bigger dumpster fire to you?
It's hard because you look at the Mets and they do have some talent there. I mean, you have a rotation that, when healthy and when on their game, can dominate, can win pretty consistently. They don't need a crazy offense to win it. Baltimore has the opposite problem. They have a decent-ish line if you don't count Chris Davis, but
you have Trey Mancini, and that's kind of it.
That's pretty much it. I mean, Orioles you expect to be bad, so I guess as far as a bigger dumpster fire, I would say Baltimore would be. But if you look at the expectations that come with the team and how they're performing, I would have to say that the Mets are probably. I'd feel bad for Mets fans, honestly.
We do this show with a Mets fan, and one of our best friends is a Mets fan. You feel bad for Ruben and Brett?
Not really, I guess.
No.
I'm just trying to be nice. I'm actually looking at their farm systems as well to see if that makes any difference. Baltimore and the Mets are in the bottom 5 farm systems on top of that. So they're not going to be good for a while unless they... I don't know how they're going to get better.
I got to agree with you. I think the bigger dumpster fire out of this is the Mets, just because expectations. The Orioles are bad and expected to be bad. The Mets are expected to be contenders, and in typical Mets fashion,
Well, maybe not even like contenders, but because I don't think they were going to compete with the Braves or the Phillies in that division. But they were going to be terrible.
They could have. They were, I think, expected to compete at least for the wild card, if not for the NL East title.
Maybe that's what they thought. I think that was an outside chance anyway.
It was an outside chance, but they made
they were closer than the Orioles were.
They got Edwin Diaz, they got Robinson Cano. They made all these little moves and things to try and be a little bit more. I forgot to look up the Cano stuff. That was another dumpster fire issue where Cano didn't hustle out a hit and got out, and then he sat out a game. And they're like, oh, is that a benching? It was presented as being a benching for his lack of hustle. And he's like, I thought it was just a regularly scheduled day off, Mets stuff is the best. But since we're talking about pitching, this is probably a good time to go into it. We've talked about Keuchel, we've talked about Bumgarner, we've talked about some available pitchers. But yesterday on the radio, USA Today's Bob Nightingale said that there's a lot of interest now in Zach Greinke, which I totally believe. Greinke, looking at his record right now, 6-2, 2.89 ERA, 67 Ks, pitched 71 2/3 innings so far. I mean, Greinke's not Greinke from even 5 years ago, but Zach Greinke's a hell of a pitcher.
I would still like him on my team. If you compare him to like Yu Darvish and the players the Cubs have, I would take him in a heartbeat.
But here's the thing: the two teams he kind of postulated that had high interest or should have high interest are the Phillies and the Yankees. Now, the Phillies, I could see that 100,000%.
Sure.
I do not, as Mr. Yankee fan over here, do not see Greinke as a fit for the Yankees. One, I don't think the Yankees would probably want to give up the prospects that would perhaps necessitate a Zach Greinke, and even if they were and ate whatever money's left on that huge deal that he signed with Arizona, I think the thing that is most prohibitive, and Brian Cashman's touched on this before, if maybe not directly, Zach Greinke has like anxiety issues and like mental issues. And I'm not belaboring or downtrodding anybody who has any type of mental problems, but he gets anxiety. He doesn't. I mean, he pitched in L.A., so really like he's been in a big market. So I don't honestly think it would handicap him in any way. But if a guy has said that he really doesn't want to be in a pressure cooker and doesn't really want to be in these pitching in a high stress environment like New York, and that kind of reaching the Yankees, and that kind of been saying that, okay, well, it's tough to pitch here. The fans get on you. The environment is always, we're expected to win every single game. I don't think mentally that Zach Greinke is a fit, and because it's been touched on by the Yankees, and to a certain level, obviously the fans I think would jump on him too. Especially, sometimes you have that first game on your team and you're still acclimating, and maybe you don't pitch lights out. Greinke's a hell of a pitcher. Greinke's one of the better pitchers in the league, but I do not see him being a fit for the Yankees. I don't know how you have that.
But I think with him, I mean, he's getting to the point where he wants to obviously win a championship, and he's looking for teams that are going to be competing. He's looking for teams that are going to kind of like he'll kind of push them over that edge. The Phillies would be a good fit, like you said, because they're at this point look like they're going to win their division, and him pushing over the edge. He's got the pedigree in the postseason more so than other those types of pitchers. And then the Yankees obviously have now just shot up to first place. They're going to be competing as well. I mean, you have two teams that are going to be very close to winning a championship. I wonder how much of that outweighs the fact that he'd be pitching in a big. And Phillies wouldn't be like a huge market by any means, but if he can handle L.A., I mean, New York is a bigger market, but then how much of his desire to win a championship is going to outweigh that fact?
And it's true, but I think looking at it from Greinke wanting to play for New York, I think that makes perfect sense. I don't see the opposite of that. I don't see New York looking to want Greinke. They need pitching. God knows they need pitching. But I don't see them wanting Greinke, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't, but
I don't know. I feel like if Greinke's going to fall in your lap, you take the chance.
They definitely need pitching, and
he's an upgrade over Happ. We'll say that.
You and I are an upgrade over Happ at this point. But we will now kind of the last topic, and obviously I am a Yankees fan. We usually touch on the Yankees at some point. They did, as you said, they're now in first place. They're, up 2 games over the Rays with all the injuries, like the 14 or so people on the IL. Not expected to be where they are. The B-side bombers, the quadruple A Yankees or whatever people were calling them or listing them. And it's true. We had all these fill-ins and we've had all these people come in and out. And one of the injuries that I kind of wanted to wrap up the show on and, put our GM hats on, so to speak, is with Troy Tulowitzki has begun baseball activities. He's going to get in some rehab games. So allegedly he'll be back sooner than later. He's also starting to play third base, which, and there's different stories out there. I've never heard it out of Troy's mouth. I've never heard it out of a former GM's mouth. So, you take things with a grain of salt. But, for the longest time, Tulowitzki said, I'm a shortstop. I'll be a shortstop until you carry me off the field. I don't want to learn anything else. But, with Didi Gregorius about to come back and all the other players that the Yankees have doing quite well, Tulo, just maybe for benefit of playing time, is starting to pick up third base for the Yankees. Tulo's 34, 35 years old. He has 9,000 injuries. First, want to look at it from the aspect of, you paid league minimum for this guy. He's on your team for $500,000. Do you even want him back? And then we're going to get into that again in a second, but for different reasons.
I mean, for league minimum, you're talking a very low risk, high reward type of guy. I mean, he's a guy that, up until probably 2015, when he was traded to Toronto, or when he went to Toronto, he hit 290. He'd hit at like 30 home runs. I mean, he was a pretty solid player. Granted, in Colorado, different environment there. Since he's come to the American League, though, he's been dropped. He's dropped off with his average. His average has dropped more than 50 points a season.
Look, but I actually have in my notes. Like, I'm not trying to cut you off for a second.
Yeah.
In 2017, which he only, by the way, played 66 games in 2017,
Sure.
his batting average was 249. He had an OBP of 300. He had an OPS of 678, and he hit 7 home runs in those 66 games. This year, he only played in 11 games, so small sample size, but his batting average was 182. He had an OBP of 308. He had an OPS of 853, and he hit 1 home run. The guy plays stellar defense. He still plays incredible defense. The bat is just not there anymore. He can't. He's not a threat at the plate. He's not going to do very much, and kind of segued me into this. But I wanted to look at the 2 players that he ostensibly would be getting playing time over. Because Didi's your starting shortstop.
Sure.
Didi Gregorius is your starting shortstop. The guy's amazing, and he'll be back in a couple weeks too. But I specifically wanted to look at what DJ LeMahieu and Gio Urshela are doing right now.
I was going to mention Urshela.
So DJ LeMahieu, who I like to refer to as Contact God, because the guy always makes contact, almost always. He's a former Gold Glover at second base. The guy's a 6'4" defensive dynamo. Like, I don't know how he gets to half the things he does. He plays good first base. He plays quality third base. I mean, you could stick him to any of the infield positions except probably short, and he's going to succeed. He is hitting .324, which is one of the highest averages in the AL right now. He's
leading off, too.
He's leading off right now, yeah. He's got an OBP of 375, OPS of 826, and he's hit 4 home runs at this point in the season.
He's not need him for power anyway.
No,
honestly.
You need him for contact and knocking in runs. Gio Urshela, who, he can play different infield positions, but he has always been known as a defensive wizard at third. The Indians saw that in him. The Toronto Blue Jays saw that in him. He was always projected to be your defense, your glove guy, but not have much of a bat. For a guy who has a history of being a lightweight hitter, he is hitting .333 right now. He has an OBP of 383, an OPS of 853, and has 2 home runs at the moment. So the big picture question, the thing that we're going to look into is, would you play Tulo, just because the name on the back of the jersey? Are you playing Tulo over DJ LeMahieu or Urshela?
I think you do in certain instances. I think you do it to obviously spell them, because Urshela's coming up. He's still new to the league. He's still figuring things out. He's going to need a break every now and then. You don't want to overwork him right up front. I think we don't know. Like, I don't know how good of a clubhouse guy Tulo is. I don't know if he provides any sort of like mentorship or anything like that. I mean, for someone like that, if you're paying it's one thing if his contract was, millions and millions of dollars. Like, that's going to be ridiculous. But if you're paying league minimum for a guy that, probably still has a little bit of life in him left, I mean, why would you dump him for nothing like that?
Because, so when Didi comes back, they have Thairo Estrada, who's a rookie, who's been playing fantastically. He's been playing second, third, short, left field. He's going to have to go down. He has options. He's going to have to go down when Tulo comes back. So you're even though I'm counting Tulo as starting in this, your bench essentially when Tulo comes back is Tulo or one of these guys, Austin Romine, who's your backup catcher, and then an additional outfielder, whether that's Cameron Maben or Brett Gardner or Clint Frazier, whatever one of those guys who is deemed the backup. Okay, so that is when Tulo comes back.
Sure.
When Didi Gregorius comes back, he is your starting shortstop. That's not a question. That's not anything. Didi Gregorius is your starting shortstop. What that means is one of these 3 players is going to be off your team. DJ LeMahieu, Troy Tulowitzki, and Giovanni Urshela do not have options. You have to choose one of those 3 people to get rid of.
Then they're going to get rid of Tulo. I don't think that's a. I mean, it's one thing to keep him around if you have the spot for him, but if you have to get rid of somebody, he's the least. I mean, he, again, low risk, high reward guy, but I mean, he has the least upside given age and how he's been trending the last probably 3-4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly has to be because DJ LeMahieu, they signed for 2 years. He obviously was, specifically acquired because of the contact and ability that he has. He's probably playing more than the Yankees thought he would, but he's been playing up to the pedigree. DJ LeMahieu.
He was good in Colorado. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, I mean when they kind of, and these are stories and things you hear, when they were wavering on Manny Machado, that's one of the reasons they got both LeMahieu and Tulo, because they wanted the contact ability of DJ and they wanted Tulo to be the temporary shortstop.
I argue LeMahieu's playing better than Machado, honestly.
He is. He absolutely is.
Definitely better than Harper.
Giovanni Urshela is who threw the wrench in this, because he was picked up as minor league depth. He wasn't picked up to be, the starting third baseman of the New York Yankees, but injury provides opportunity, and the guy has come up. Now, is he going to fall back down to earth? Probably. But even if he's hitting, I mean, like we said, he's hitting 333 right now. Even if the guy is hitting 280 or 265 or even if he's hitting 250, I don't think Tulo can match that. I think, and I hate to say this because Troy Tulowitzki was a fantastic shortstop, a Gold Glove caliber shortstop, probably a Hall of Famer projection for the first 5 to 10 years of the guy's career, somewhere in there.
I think when he started in Colorado till he went to Toronto, I think it was like 8-9 years or something. I mean, he hit like 300 every year.
Yeah. He just, injuries can derail a career, and I get that he wants to still prove to the league, that he is a decent ball player. I get that he wants his kid to see him take the field, and I understand that. I absolutely understand that. But the Yankees are going to have a decision to make sometime in June, because Gregorius will be back sooner than later, and I just don't know how much longer of a baseball rope Tulo's going to get.
Somebody's going to pick him up, honestly. Somebody's going to want some hitting depth and hope a change of scenery does something for him, and you never know. So
it's possible, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see, and then hopefully more positive vibes for my Yankees. And your Cubs are in first place, right?
And they're winning 4-1 right now against Cincinnati. So,
I mean that's your.
We lost 2 or 3 to Cincinnati last week. So.
But isn't that your division's Orioles basically?
Kind of. Actually, the Reds are better than you think.
No, they are pretty decent. They have
a positive run differential, actually.
Oh, wow.
Which is surprising for them. They hit like nobody's business.
Well, so that's at least a competitive division, competitive series. But
other than the Pirates, they kind of suck.
Next week, I am going to be off. I am going to be traveling up for actually some of the Yankees-Red Sox series at Yankee Stadium. And then the following week, I will actually also be out because I will be going to. I'm going to be visiting Citizens Bank to see the Phillies.
Cool.
First trip over there. I am on a mission to see every MLB ballpark. I've seen about 15 of them. So the Phillies will be number 16. So the show will have a brief 2-week hiatus. In the interim, please feel free to reach out to Matt, Ruben, and myself at facebook.com/TR Podcast. I make the podcast part of the P there.
It's clever.
It's very clever. Very, very original. I only have the best ideas, the biggest ideas, and I only podcast with the best people.
That is also accurate.
That is also accurate. So in the 2-week hiatus, the draft will go down in that time period. Yep. So we'll see Dallas Keuchel should finally, and Kimbrel should have signed by the time we're back. And any questions or any topics that come across in the next couple of days that you guys want us to answer or weigh our opinions on, or if you want to just tell Matt you can beat his ass in video games, he'll laugh at you. But
probably
any kind of message you want to reach out, like to be a little bit more interactive, answer some questions, and see what we can do for you guys. Thank you always for listening, and enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. And last but most certainly not least, always be a fan.